Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. This is Inga Hansen, editor of MedEsthetics magazine, and we're going to go ahead and get started. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into the box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. And today we'll be discussing 5 practice-boosting trends that can help you grow your aesthetic practice in the coming year. Our presenter is Francis Acunzo. He's the CEO and founder of Acara Partners, a spa and medical spa consulting firm. Prior to founding Acara Partners, Francis owned and/or operated more than 60 spas and medical spas. Welcome, Francis.
Thank you, Inga. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We're going to be speaking about, as Inga mentioned, the 5 practice-boosting trends for 2019. Before we begin, let me just tell you a little bit more about myself. Back in the 90s, my wife and I were the founders of the medical spa movement and the aesthetic medical industry. When we merged our spa company with Candela, the cosmetic laser company, and that's how it all began. We have owned and operated over 60 spas, medical spas, including the very first medical spa, as I just mentioned. Myself and my 20-person team have developed a proven system to really develop profitable practices. Throughout my career, I have secured over $85 million to finance spa, wellness, and medical spa projects, executing over 20 successful acquisitions to grow and expand businesses, and doubled sales at 12 cosmetic practices and med spas during the recession. The Acara Partners team has developed over 100 business plans. We have worked with over 200 aesthetic medical clients. As I mentioned, we raised over $85 million in capital. We have, from time to time, seen revenue growth for the practices that we work with anywhere from 3 to 6 times. And at one time in 2005, we took a chain of 37 medical spas out of bankruptcy and successfully sold that to a private equity group. There's a few of us on the team that actually have 35 plus years experience in the world of spa and aesthetic medicine. Okay, let's begin. 5 practice boosting trends. First one. Okay, this is easy. It's easy to say, let's add new technology. Sometimes it's not so easy because it carries a cost. So you want to make sure you're adding the right technology, the technology that is in demand, that has procedures or services that are offered that are in demand in the marketplace. Let's start with a hot new category. This one I love, and my team is all over it. We're talking about energy-based muscle toning. Return on investment is really strong. What's driving that is the fact that both male and female have a high demand for this procedure. All right, what am I talking about? Well, it's BTL's M-Sculpt, which is the first to market really in this energy-based muscle toning category within the world of aesthetic medicine. Now, do we have a crystal ball? Do we know if energy-based muscle toning is going to be around and still strong in 2 years, 3 years? We don't. We can't promise that. But what do we know? Well, if you make the investment into this device, I can almost guarantee it, as long as you have a really solid marketing program in place, you will see the return on the investment that will pay off that device well before the market softens in any way, whether it be the trend is over, whether it be competitors come in. But the one thing about M-Sculpt, it is first to market. They do have and hold that position. No one can ever take that away from them. All right. Next on this list, what was named actually by RealSelf.com as the highest patient interest growth in 2018 was hybrid fractional resurfacing. Why? What is the excitement around hybrid fractional resurfacing? Well, lower downtime, which equals a lower barrier to entry. When you hear resurfacing, you automatically think, it's going to be a long downtime. Sometimes it could be as long as 3 weeks where you don't go back to work. Well, you can almost get as good of results. If not, if you do multiple treatments, you can get as good of results as straight resurfacing. by doing a hybrid fractional resurfacing, and you have downtime of 1 day, 2 days, maybe 4 days. So it really reduces that barrier to entry. People don't come to your practice and get a consultation and walk away saying, I can't afford to do that. I'm not going to give up 3 weeks of my life to have facial resurfacing. Well, you don't have to. And that's where they say, yeah, I want to do it too. And it's because of that, you can actually offer it at a little bit lower price than traditional resurfacing, and that's easier for the consumer to purchase. On Real Self, it was up as far as the clicks and the interest for Halo. That's what we're talking about here. It was up 39% from 17 to 18. So the interest has really swelled, and we think in 2019 there's going to be a continued high level of interest. It really comes down to the before and afters. We see these amazing before and afters online, and it gets the marketplace excited. So this is Cyton's Halo device, and it's the only hybrid fractional laser on the market right now. Highly recommend looking into this. Innovative combination treatment. Okay, so this is combining radio frequency, RF, as it is often referred to, with microneedling. So combination therapy alone demands a higher price because they're getting more, not just microneedling. Microneedling has been really popular, especially the past 2 or 3 years or so. But here we have an opportunity to take the microneedling, combine it with radio frequency, increase the results because of that, allow for all skin types to be able to take advantage of this, and allow it to be performed in any season, fall, winter, spring, or summer. What does that mean? It's a wider market penetration. So there's never a time of year where you get a little sensitive because that sun exposure or whatever it may be. So you definitely have a wider market penetration. Who are we talking about? Cartessa, the Vivace. This is the newest generation RF combination with microneedling. Before I go any further, I'm mentioning a few manufacturers here, and I will be mentioning a few more. They are not endorsing this webinar. I went to the team here at Acara and said, hey guys, what are the trends that are happening? What do you see happening in the field? Because they're out there. They're at events, they're at trade shows, they're within client locations all the time. And these are the things they came back with that are really the trends and are on trend. We're endorsing it not because we're backed by these people. We're endorsing it because we see these things as best practices, on-trend practices. Okay. Next in that top 5 for 2019, a dedicated sales consultant. This is really extremely important. You can see your numbers jump up when you have a dedicated sales consultant. It's one of the things we always recommend when we go into the practice. If there isn't a dedicated consultant, we recommend putting one in. Before I was mentioning we've seen sales increase anywhere from 3 to 6 times. Well, typically, that's when we are adding a dedicated sales consultant, right? So first off, when you decide to do this, you need to make sure that you select the right candidate. All right, let's talk about the criteria for the right candidate. First off, you need a personality fit with your office. It's very disruptive when you bring somebody into your office new that doesn't jive with the team. You want this person to connect with the team. You want this person to have what I call a sales gene. It's this innate, natural ability to connect, have that instant rapport and likability factor with people, because that's what it takes to be successful as a patient coordinator or a sales consultant. Instant rapport, high likability factor, keen interest also in the industry. That's really important. You can't bring somebody into this industry if they're not interested in what they're selling or presenting or educating on. They're not going to be nearly as successful as the person who loves looking and seeing the confidence building that they can accomplish with the patients, right? Some cautions. First off, providers don't necessarily make the best consultants. Now, that doesn't go for all providers. And here we're talking mostly estheticians and nurses. There are some out there that make very good sales consultants, patient coordinators. But typically, providers are more about that nurture nature. They don't get excited about increasing sales and seeing the numbers grow and closing the deal and getting excited for that. They get excited more about taking care of the person, which the salesperson really is, because hopefully they're aligning the proper solution to the need that that person has, but it's taking care of people in a different way. So don't automatically jump to hiring an esthetician and saying, you're now going to be a sales consultant, a nurse. Okay, we're making you the patient coordinator. That's not necessarily the right thing to do. Another reason for that has to do with over information. You want the initial consultation, at least, to focus more on the benefits and features of the solution, right? I'm excited. I can get rid of my reds and browns. Oh, and it's going to be performed by the nurse with 20 years experience and the best technology in the industry, Cyton BBL laser. Wow, that's really exciting. I want that. And oh, look at these before and afters. I want that, right? Well, sometimes providers, they validate themselves by how much they know. So during a consultation, they will often provide more information that's necessary. How many joules? What is the wavelength? Technical type information, because they think that's important, that's exciting and interesting to them. But the person sitting in that consultation, they have no interest in that information. That's not why they're there. They want to buy a result. Okay, so that's oftentimes why they don't make the best consultants. But again, like I said, sometimes there are estheticians or nurses that make very good consultants. Also, experienced consultants may bring bad habits, right? So you look and say, wow, this person has 10 years experience at a plastic surgery practice across town. I'd love to have them in here. Well, that may work out, but it also may not be great because they may not want to do it your way. They may want to do it their way or bring bad habits with them. So if you're going to hire somebody with experience, which I highly recommend from time to time, that can be a great thing, make sure they're willing to retool themselves, retrain themselves into the format that you want, the sales pipeline management that you want, the lead capture system that you want, the conversion and the consultation process that you want, works in your practice. Okay? All right. So let's talk about developing a commission structure. All right? Criteria in developing a commission structure. I'm going to okay. I apologize. I just wanted to check the chat. I heard a strange noise in my headset. I wanted to make sure that I was still connected to you. All right, so developing a commission structure. Let's jump to that. Criteria, identify your market's compensation range. Do this by going on Indeed or possibly talking to friendly practices, people that you know in the industry, and asking, what is the compensation range? What do you pay, total compensation now, for your sales consultant? Is it $60,000? Is it $90,000? Is it $120,000? Is it $40,000? Find out what will make your compensation package competitive. Then you're going to break it into. So let's say we find out that $75,000 is going to be a competitive wage in the marketplace. Then you're going to say, okay, how do I get somebody to $75,000? Because that's the really good competitive wage in my market. I really want to pay a good wage to have a long-term, excited, happy employee, right? So I come up with a base, whether it be $50,000, $55,000, $45,000, and I come up with a commission. Now, we see the commissions ranging from 0.5% to upwards of 3% of sales. Why such a big range? Well, it depends on what you're commissioning on or what these commissions are for. If it's for overall sales, because you plan to put into the job description that they're responsible to coach and mentor the front desk in increasing lead conversion, increasing sales post-procedure, lead capture. They're going to work with the providers to help them upsell and cross-sell. So that type of person would have a lower commission. You would commission on overall sales of the practice. You'd commission on, if the practice had $2 million in sales, they would get it on $2 million in sales, right? Because they're responsible for all sales. If the person was responsible for what they sell and the practice manager did all those other things, then you would give a higher commission, say 3%, or anywhere from 2 up to 3%. So it just depends on what you're providing the commission on. We really like when the sales consultant in a smaller practice, $2.5 million or less, is responsible for all sales. They're excited to increase overall practice sales. And then it's anywhere from 0.5% to typically never no more than 1.5%. All right? So, a word of caution here. Make sure you plan for the future, right? So commission structure should be based on the future's higher forecasted sales. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you're doing, $900,000 today, but you're in a growth phase. And in 3 years from now, you're doing $1.8 million, right? Well, if you gave them 5%, an amount outside of even what we recommend, that may be okay. 5% of $900,000 is $45,000, right? So what happens when you go 1.8 million, 0.005, and all of a sudden it's $90,000? That's a lot, and it may put the person outside of that compensation range that you had identified in your marketplace. So just make sure that you don't commission for today. Commission for the future, and commission for when your sales are sort of maximized, because it's going to give the person incentive to build up to that level, and it's very exciting. So here's the thing, though. Never reduce someone's compensation. If you decide that, wow, I've overcompensated them, don't make the decision to say, wow, they shouldn't make $120,000 a year or $150,000 a year. I'm gonna cut back. Next year, you're only going to make $100,000. It's going to highly demotivate the person. You may think, what is he, crazy? No one would do that. Well, we've seen it done about 3 times. So it does happen out there. People get a little crazy. If you built a system that doesn't necessarily work, well, you're going to leave that money on the table in the end. But that's okay. Just let it be, because you'll hopefully continue to have those high sales that you want. Okay. So let us look at the next slide here, and it's about marketing planning. So the first thing to do, this is very foundational. When you go into any marketing cycle, whether it be an annual cycle, we recommend actually 2-month cycles for aesthetic medical practices. You want to do 2 things. You want to review the previous year, same time, previous year, and you want to review your previous period. So what are you looking for? Well, for the previous year, you're looking at what promotions did I have going on last March, April, right? Did I have BBL treatments on special? Buy 4, get the 5th free. Did I have save $500 on Smart Lipo? What were those promotions I was offering for that 2-month period? Then you're going to look and see, all right, what events did I hold? Did I have any maybe injectable days? Did I have educational seminars? Then you're going to look at the sales as they relate to the promotions and as they relate to the events, and see if these things worked, right? And if they didn't work, don't automatically go to the bad place and say, oh, that didn't work. shut it down. We're never going to do that promotion again. We're never going to do that event again. It's not about necessarily the promotion or the event that didn't work. It's maybe how you formatted the promotion, possibly how you formatted the event. I mean, events are an incredible way to get the word out, do group consultations when you do educational seminars, to do promotions and community excitement when you do open house type events, maybe once or twice a year. We have a practice that we work with in the Southwest that has 2 open houses a year, one in November, one in May, and they do over $600,000 at each one of these. It's incredible. It can work so well. I'm not saying that you can go out and do an event at that level, but I'm just giving you an example of how great they can be to help increase sales or increase excitement about your practice and the procedures and the services that you offer. So we like educational events, really popular. We have one practice that for the past 10 years has done a monthly, I think he skips 1 or 2 months, so maybe 10 monthly educational seminars per year, has been doing it for over 10 years, and he consistently gets $15,000 to $25,000 in sales during those events. So look at what events you held, what worked, what didn't work, what do you want to modify. Go to your previous period, because you may have new procedures and services that weren't happening the previous year. So take a look at the previous period, identify what have we just introduced, what do we need to build momentum with, things of that nature. So that's very important. Foundationally, before you do your marketing planning, to look at your past performance. Okay, what are the 2 marketing trends that we see in 2019? Right? First off, streaming social media. First one is Instagram stories. Instagram stories are very similar, if not a duplicate of Snapchat, but it's Instagram's version of Snapchat. And we recommend that you manage as few platforms when it comes to social media as possible. You have to have your Facebook. You pretty much have to have Twitter. Add Instagram if you don't have it. That's one to add. And make sure you take advantage of Instagram stories. Now, let's see. It was Jasmine Hill who wrote this great blog post for MedEsthetics, and it was all about adding Instagram stories to your practice. So I highly recommend that you just do a little search on MedEsthetics, either directly on their blog or on their website, and you will find this article and read the article. It's Jasmine Hill. She's with the Aesthetic Influencer. The name of the article is Marketing Minute, Should Your Practice Use Instagram Stories? And I'm going to quote Jasmine here. So differentiate yourself from the next doctor or office and grow into a true brand. Instagram Stories will give most aesthetic practices a way to add a more personal touch to their standard posts, which may sometimes feel just sort of still. Okay? So I recommend reading that, adding Instagram Stories to your social platform as one of your social platforms this year. The other thing is Facebook Live. Facebook Live is great. It's very interactive. It's very engaging. You can be filming team members. You can be filming and going live on Facebook Live with an event you may be holding, a presentation. You may be able to film a procedure. Be careful, HIPAA compliant. Don't disclose who the person is, obviously. And it's really a great way to engage the consumer. The other thing that is becoming incredibly important are landing pages. So instead of having a Facebook paid advertisement or a paid campaign from Google, pay-per-click campaign, direct the person to the website. Have them go to a more focused landing page. The reason being is you go to a website, there's so much information. We have practices that offer up to 60 procedures and services, and people end up going down rabbit holes and looking what's this about? And all of a sudden they're deep into liposuction when they came here because they wanted to learn more about photofacials or about cool sculpting or about M-Sculpt, for example. So we highly recommend you have landing pages that your paid campaigns get directed to. And, it really is a focused funnel, this landing page. They start reading about the features and benefits of this procedure. They go down a little bit further. They're engaged even more, and they look at before and after photographs. Oh, they're even closer now to wanting to engage and possibly make the purchase. And they get into a Q&A section, and then, as you can see over to the right, they complete the form so that you, the practice, can contact them. So it's a lot easier to have this funnel approach to having somebody go from I'm interested to go to I want more information, right? So that's another trend that we want or we see happening right now in 2019. Let's talk about a sales system that increases conversions. It's so critical to increase conversions, and one of the things that has to happen for conversions to be higher is you have to get the information from the people that are contacting you. Keep in mind, when somebody calls, that's a lead. That lead may have cost the practice anywhere from, on the low end, $80 to get them to pick up the phone and call, up to $200 or $250 to pick up the phone and call. I see these practices sometimes where the receptionist picks up the phone. Hey, the person on the other end. Hey, I'm interested in cool sculpting. They give some information, and they say, okay, great, thank you. Click. Well, what just happened? You never got any information from the person. You might as well reach into the cash drawer, grab $200, crumple it up, and toss it in the basket. You need to get the 5 critical elements of a lead, right? You need to get their name. You need to ask for their phone number. You need to get a CAN spam compliant email address. And what I mean by that is, you have to inform the potential client what the email will be used for. Something like, I'd love to get your email address so we can send you monthly newsletters. They're very informative. You'll find out about our specials, but they're also very educational. Can I have your email, please? How did you hear about the practice? Now, there's all these tracking methods out there, which are really great, and we use them all the time. Tracking phone numbers, tracking code for pay-per-click campaigns, and things of that nature. The front desk still has to ask, how did you hear about us? Why? Well, in this day and age, when people see the ad in the newspaper and there's a tracking number on there, they don't pick up the phone and call that tracking number necessarily. I bet you 75 to 80% of the time, they go to the URL that's on that ad, or they go to your website, and then they call off the number that's on the website if they're calling in. So it's only those tracking numbers provide indication. They don't provide definitive numbers. It's really helpful to have your front desk still ask and record, how did you hear about us? Was it the billboard? Was it the traditional ad in the newspaper? Was it the website? Was it an ad online? Whatever it may have been. And of course, area of interest. And this is the easiest to get because they usually start the conversation with area of interest. Hey, I saw your ad for cool sculpting. I'd love to get more information, right? So mark that down as soon as you hear it. Have that lead capture form right in front of you. Mark that piece down, and then work to get the other 4. Okay. Standardized consultation process. This has to be in place in order for you to really take advantage of, the ability to convert on a high level consultations to patients. Have a very standardized process. The 8-step consultation consultation process that we teach is 1, the greeting, 2, the practice overview. Teach your team how to talk about the other team members and the practice to a level where people will not want to go anywhere else after they hear how great you are. The discovery process, you need to find out needs and also the wants so that you can then hone in on the solutions that would fulfill those needs and those wants. Then focus on the benefits and the features of those solutions. don't get too detailed here. This will help with the reds and browns. We use a Cyton laser. Our nurse has done this for 10 years. Benefit feature, right? Then put together a plan if there's more than one procedure possibly, and of course pricing with whatever specials or offers you have going on. Throughout the process, your test closing to see how everything is going, you're overcoming objections. A really good sales consultant closes 100% of the time. Why? Because they overcome all objections before they ask for the sale. Otherwise, they say to them, it seems like you're not ready today. We'll keep in touch. We'll send you emails. And you don't ask for the sale if they're not ready to buy. It just puts off the potential patient. And then, of course, the close and the follow-up to the close. We're launching Aesthetic Business Institute March 1, and we actually have a training for the 8-step consultation process. It's a video training the team here is involved in. And so you can, if you become a member of the Aesthetic Business Institute, which is an annual membership, you would be able to actually go through our training. Let's talk about something that we find very trendy, on trend, something to focus on in 2019, better before and after photos. But we're recommending RX Photo, which is an online app. So this is a low capital investment, and there's a lot of ease of use with this process. It's not as robust as some of the larger technology that's out there, but oftentimes that technology doesn't even get used. This is easy. It's simple. It pretty much helps you take very good before and after photographs, and anybody can use it. One thing I'd recommend, though, make sure that you buy an iPad for your practice. From a HIPAA standpoint, this is information you don't want being on team members' phones. You want it to stay on that one iPad and be downloaded directly into your EMR system. So that's really important. But this is something that we see trending. Photos, before and after photos, made easy. The easier they are, the better chance that you're going to do it consistently. I've got to tell you, we go into practices every week, and we see about 25% of the practices take no before and after photographs. 25% of the practices take before and after photographs that are not very good. 25% of the practices that take before and after photographs that are actually very good, but then they present them very poorly. And only about 25% of the practices out there do a really good job taking the before and after photographs and also presenting them really well, whether it be on a flat panel computer screen or whether it be on an iPad or, if you want to do something traditional and you put together really nice, well-kept and maintained books, that's absolutely fine too. But it is probably, before and after photos are probably one of the most important selling tools that you have. You're not going to just tell them how good you guys do with your procedures and your services and the great results you get. You're going to show them what you can accomplish, right? So make sure you do that and do it really well. All right, so now on to educational seminars. All right, I can't tell you how important educational seminars are. Every client that we work with, we recommend educational seminars on some level. And really, to make it very engaging and making it very on trend, we recommend doing 4 things that are maybe different than what was done before 2019. And that was 1, have live before and after demonstrations, and have those demonstrations and see if they're comfortable doing it on Facebook Live or maybe as an Instagram story, do a video, right? Procedure videos, have when you're doing your PowerPoint presentation, which is the traditional way to do an educational seminar, is to have a PowerPoint presentation as something you're walking through to present. Typically, we like the physician to do this. Throw in procedure videos, have them embedded into the presentation. really interesting and exciting, again, you're not just telling them, you're showing them what's going to happen. Be careful. Don't make them too scary, too medical. Make them acceptable to a group to look at. And Facebook Live, have during the entire time Facebook Live where somebody is filming either the whole thing or a portion of the event. Be really exciting, and put it on Instagram stories as well. Of course, as I mentioned, you need that PowerPoint presentation. You want to do a question and answer session at the end. This is like these educational seminars end up being like group hugs. It's like a big group consult. Everybody like gets involved and gets excited, and you don't need 30 or 40 people in the room. You can do these with, anywhere from 10 to 15 people. It's a real good low barrier to entry way to learn about the practice, to learn about the procedures. You want to make sure they're focused, by the way. You should have a single focus or a limited focus. I would recommend not doing too much on injectables. I would do injectable days and make that something special to injectable days. But you may have a body contouring event. You may have a skin facial rejuvenation event. You may have an event for plastic surgery procedures, more surgical type procedures if you are a plastic surgeon. So keep them fairly focused and alternate and rotate the focus depending on the time of year. Sometimes seasonality drives it. Sometimes your sales drive it. Hey, we really need to increase what we're doing for skin rejuvenation. We want to do more BBLs. We want to do more halos. Let's have a skin rejuvenation focused event. And the thing that you also want to do, which is really more engaging and happening, is have event-only specials, but also make the event-only specials available on your social media platforms, right? So usually when you're at an event and you offer, let's say, upwards of 20 to 25% off some type of procedure, it's only available, it's a better promotion than any regular promotion, and it's only available if you book a consultation that evening and you hold that consultation within a certain number of days, let's say 10 days. So if you have a consultation within 10 days of the event, you get the event-only special. I also recommend, that's the old way, that's pre-2019, let's say. The new way would be to somehow use your social media platforms to have people ask for the event-only specials through their social media platform. They saw their ad, they're like, hey, I'd like to take advantage of this. They communicate to you through social media or contact you directly. That would work. That works really well. It's just another way to expand how many people you are reaching. Okay, so those are the trends that we see. Those are the most important things that we'd like you to take away going into 2019, implement, and increase your success as a practice.
Thank you so much, Francis. And we do have some questions for you. And if there are any questions with the attendees that have come up, please feel free to type them into the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. We're wondering, could you give an example of a test close?
Sure. A test close is when you ask them, you really want to find out how prepared they are to make the purchase, right? So it may be something as simple as, what do you think of the information I presented today? Is this something that you may be interested in? Or you may be a little bit more aggressive and say, okay, this all sounds great. Why don't we get you booked? I am very busy for the next 2 weeks, but I know we have appointments in 3 weeks. Does that work for you? So you're asking them to show you that they're ready. It tests the readiness of them wanting to actually book the procedure. And if during that time when you test that readiness, they hesitate or they back off, and, oh no, I'm not ready to book yet, you then need to probe a little bit more to find out what is the current objection they may have that might be on the table, to work through that objection So you get them to the point where they're ready to close.
Great. And I have a couple questions that have to do with commission and bonus. And the first is, how do you recommend structuring bonuses for other staff members, particularly front desk?
There's many ways you can, and we don't have any particular. There's no particular method I see as like a magic pill, right? You can do a group bonus on retail. So there could be the house retail, and then the front desk divides the house retail commission, whether it be 10% of what I would call house retail. And house retail is anything that's sold that's not connected to an esthetician that provided the service. That works nicely, so they get excited about selling more retail for the practice. You can do a portion of overall sales if you wanted to spiff the front desk and maybe take a quarter point. So 20.25% of overall sales goes into a pool that your front desk splits, so that they get excited and they're interested in getting busier. Sometimes it's hard. You want to be busier, right? You may come up with great programs and new technology that make you much busier. Well, it's hard. The front desk is working harder. They are busier. They have to carry that burden. It's nice if you actually give them some level of incentive so they feel like, hey, I don't mind that we're busier. I'm making $1 more an hour because we're busier. So that would be another way.
And so it sounds like you recommend group bonuses versus individual bonuses in a lot of these situations.
Very much for the front desk. I would recommend more group bonuses because the last thing you want is a front desk that becomes competitive with each other, right? Or becomes competitive with the providers. So if you do group bonuses with them, they can all partake. What you do have to manage sometimes, and from time to time, is the, hey, I work harder, I do more than she does situation. But you manage that by actively training your team, mentoring them, watching and listening to what they're doing, and help the ones that are not doing as well to become better.
And on the sales consultant commissions, do commissions tend to differ, say, based on whether the person is working in a med spa versus the plastic surgery practice because the prices are so different for the procedures, or is that not a function of the commission?
No, it really shouldn't be necessarily a function of the commission. It's really all about the market rate. So we have something called pay scales that we pay an annual fee so that we can pull compensation levels within any market in the United States. The first thing we do is we pull comparable positions if they don't have a patient coordinator in there, but they may have something that's comparable, a practice manager or whatever. And we look at the pay scale within the marketplace. And if we see that this market, let's call it Denver, pays at the 75th percentile 80% to somebody within a sales position and upwards of $80,000 and upwards of $95,000 for the top end, the 100 percentile, we will then make a decision where within that should the total compensation end up for that person. And if they're a patient coordinator or a sales consultant in any aesthetic practice, doesn't matter what type, that's the range. And so we'll build a comp structure that will allow them to attain that $60,000 in a base, 1.5% in overall sales, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. And we had a question about what do you feel is the most cost-effective advertising avenue to gain leads?
All right. I know everyone wants to spend the least amount of money to gain the most number of leads. It's always the case, and of course, all of us want that. But to do a more targeted lead generation program isn't necessarily the best route to take. We like to think of marketing or promotional advertising type activities as being the spoke and hub, sort of like a bicycle wheel. Think of all the spokes that come out of the wheel, and each of them points to some type of activity. Many of these things are lower priced like some online programs. Social media doesn't cost a lot, but it gets great visibility. Now, Facebook ads cost more, but we still want a certain amount of traditional advertising programs. There are certain people out there that read the local paper, that actually see these billboards, that listen to radio advertisements, that may be listening to Pandora, that also, go online as well. But it needs to come from all sides. And a well put together marketing program has a multi pronged approach and is pressing many, many buttons, many levers.
Great. And when it comes to bringing in new technology, it seems like every year we have something new and exciting coming in. How do you decide if that technology is actually right for your patient base and your business?
That's a good question, Inga. It's a very tough one to answer as well. To some degree, you have to do your research. You have to look at the clinical studies. You have to speak. I highly recommend speaking to the physicians that actually did these clinical studies. Reach out to them and ask if you could have 5 minutes of their time. Because no matter what, it is a little bit of a leap of faith when you are first to market, right? Because there can be things that this trend turns into more of a fad, right? And that's what you don't want to do, is having this $150,000 piece of equipment sitting getting dusty in the closet because it looked hot and trendy and there was some demand in the beginning, but then it fell off, or the efficacy wasn't there at the level that they claimed originally. So to some degree, after you've done your research, so it's an educated decision, you then have to take that leap of faith and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the risk because if I win big, right? And it's business, really. No matter what, it's that there's always that period where you jump off the cliff and you hope you have a good parachute to make it a soft landing.
Great. And that is actually the last question we had. I did want to let everyone know that this webinar will be up on our website, medaestheticsmag.com/webinar, and also the MedEsthetics YouTube channel later today. So if anyone wants to review the information or share it with any of their colleagues, you're welcome to do that. And thank you all so much for attending. And Francis, thank you so much for the great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Have a great day.